Hello, everybody. Welcome to SI's Winners Club. I am Bill Enright. With me, Jen Piacenti, Michael Fabiano. The Winners Club, where we help you win your fantasy football matchups and all of your bets in the NFL. We're going to have a great show today. Let's jump right into some questions. Jen is in the new location. She had her brother's wedding last night. Congratulations to Jen and Jen's brother and her fiance. Fabs, I know you're dialed in, ready to go for week 10. And we have some interesting people that are in, people that are out. We have Russell Wilson back, and that is our first question of the day from Evan. He wants to know, should he put in Russell Wilson or go with Carson Wentz? Fabs, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I like Wentz. I like the matchup against the Jaguars. I'm playing Russell Wilson. He's back. Should be a very enjoyable game. It's snowing there in Green Bay. And case my friend Stacey Dales, who works for the NFL Network, is reporting from there. And it's quite a winter wonderland, but that should not hurt anyone's fantasy value. And it's supposed to stop snowing by kickoff, but I'm going Russell Wilson.
Jen, we have to help out Seth because Seth says he has a sad flex option. Oh. And it's between Antonio Gibson or Mike Davis in the PPR format. Jen, who do you like there?
Yeah, that is a really sad question. I'm going to say Antonio Gibson, even though I'm not a huge Antonio Gibson fan, even though it's a tough matchup. Mike Davis, I can't do it. I think it's going to be a Cordero Patterson day, and I just can't do Mike Davis anymore. So Antonio Gibson's the guy you took much higher in the draft. You're going to trust him today.
We are going to get to the active-inactive report in just a bit, but we do know Ben Roethlisberger, Steelers quarterback, will not be playing today. So Fabs, Brian needs to know, with Ben out, are you playing Deontay Johnson or Jerry Jeudy?
I've still got Deontay Johnson ranked higher than Jerry Jeudy. The Eagles defense can be tough against wide receivers. And Rudolph's got to throw to somebody, right? I mean, so I would expect that Deontay Johnson would lead this team in targets. Let's hope that Mason Rudolph is yet another one of these backup quarterbacks who actually exceeds expectations. We've had a bunch of those this season. And it's the Lions, so if you can't do it against the Lions, well, maybe the Steelers need to find themselves a new backup.
All right, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitter, drop us your question in the chat room or reply to any of the tweets. Jen sent out a tweet, Fab sent out a tweet, Sports Illustrated sent out a tweet. A lot of ways that you can put your questions. But if you're watching on YouTube, drop them right in that chat room, and we'll get to them in just a bit. Jen, but let's go over some of these injuries because there's a lot of big names that are both coming back, which is always good, but a lot of big names that are out today too. Let's start with the players that are not playing in week 10.
Yeah, quite a few players to pay attention to here. Ben Roethlisberger and Sam Darnold both out. Ben just for the week, hopefully with COVID-19. Sam Darnold now to the IR. Hopefully everyone's heard that news. For running backs, no Nick Chubb, no Alvin Kamara, no Damian Harris, Chase Edmonds, Chris Carson, or Jamal Williams. At wideout, unfortunately, no Robert Woods, Chase Claypool, Antonio Brown, or Julio Jones. Surprise, surprise. And at tight end, no Gronk and no Jonnu Smith.
You know, it's interesting with the Julio Jones. Fabs had a nice little rant today on his Sirius XM show saying he's never going to draft Julio Jones ever again.
I'm done. I drafted him in only 2 leagues because I was worried. He was one of the guys I thought would be a bust this season. But at some point in drafts, you're like, he's fallen this far. I'll take a shot on him. I was able to trade him away in 1 league weeks ago. And I think I actually have him. It might be in the SI league. And I couldn't get a ham sandwich for him right now. I'm done with Julio Jones. And, he should have been on the IR probably weeks ago. And now you're left with, well, who do you play? I mean, do you go with Nick Westbrook, Ukino? Do you go with Marcus Johnson? I say avoid it altogether. A.J. Brown is probably the only startable Titan that you can start at least with any level of confidence. And that's on a team that is considered the best in the AFC.
All right, let's go over to the active players today. Jen, we get 2 all-pro quarterbacks back in action in week 10, and they're playing against each other.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson facing off this week. It's going to be lots of fun. James Robinson is playing. Zach Moss is playing. So all those DFS lineups you set with like great values on Devin Singletary, you might want to scrap that idea. Wide receivers, Chris Godwin playing. Keenan Allen playing, Corey Davis playing. Michael Gallup is back this week. And at tight end, Dawson Knox will play today.
Fabs, with Rodgers and Wilson back in action, are you upgrading all their playmakers at wide receiver?
Yeah, I mean, I have Devontae Adams back to the number 2 wideout this week, only behind Cooper Kupp And it's good for everybody involved. I mean, did you watch Jordan Love last week? That was pretty bad. So, and I get it was only one game, but it was still pretty bad. And Rodgers also, like, this is like a Rodgers game. It's a Rodgers week. Like, what have we been talking about with him? COVID-19 and immunization versus vaccination and the Pat McAfee interviews. Now Rodgers is going to go out there and have a shot to basically just shut everyone up with a 3 or 4 touchdown performance against a Seahawks team that gets Russell Wilson back. And Seattle's defense, when you look at the numbers, has not been terrible against quarterbacks, but the 3 biggest quarterback performances they've given up this year, all on the road. So Rodgers is in a smash spot.
Yeah.
You mentioned that
so
it is
well at home and in the snow. It's like he loves that. So, like, yeah, I think it's going to be a huge day for Aaron Rodgers.
There's about 2 or 3 inches of snow on the
he loves that.
on the bleachers in Green Bay. Obviously, they have the field covered, but I love watching football in the snow. I think it's always fun. But I'm not taking any of my players out of my lineups just because there's snow on the ground, especially if you have a guy like DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett. I think they should be in the lineup today with Russell Wilson back. Jen, we do have some questionable players for the second set of games today, mostly on the Arizona Cardinals.
It's mostly Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and even Rondale Moore. They say Rondale Moore has the best shot to play. You may need him in a flex position. Remember, guys, you want to make sure you're using your flex positions the right way. So if you have someone from an early game, do not leave them in your flex spot. Even if you think of them like a flex, that's okay. You can label them whatever you want in your mind. Don't put them in that spot in your lineup. Put the running back in the running back and the wide receiver in the wide receiver. Give yourself all those flex options you can when it comes to the late game.
All right, let's help out some people that are watching us on YouTube. We got Robert Williams wants to know if you should start Chris Godwin or Deontay Johnson. And we know Ben Roethlisberger is not playing, but Chris Godwin was very questionable even leading up to this game today. Fabs, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough call, which is strange because it's such a call between 2 good players. I'm surprised you can't play both, to be quite honest with you. But if you have to pick one, I mean, Chris Godwin's active. He's playing in Washington, and Tom Brady's his quarterback. I'd probably have to go with Godwin there.
The other option would be, you know, like if he has Cooper Kupp as his wide receiver 1 and he only played 2 people out of that group, maybe he just has some really good wide receivers.
Find a different league.
Jen and I have a big matchup today in the Sports Illustrated League. I'm looking forward to it. She's in second place. I'm in first place. A couple injuries on my end, but I got to give her credit. Because
I lost Robert Woods.
You lost Robert Woods, and you're in second place, and you lost Christian McCaffrey for the last month. So kudos to you.
And I lost Zach Wilson. I'm playing in a 2 QB league with 1 quarterback.
Yeah, but no, I'm trying to give you props here, Jen. I mean, you've really held on strong without McCaffrey with just 1 quarterback. So
that's why we do these shows. Never, ever, ever give up. There's always a way to fight back.
Robert just wanted to let us know that CeeDee Lamb is his wide receiver 1, and DeAndre Swift is in his flex. Are you playing DeAndre Swift today over Deontay Johnson?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No Jamal Williams? Yeah, he's going to be the offense. Although the last time Jamal Williams didn't play and we were all excited about Swift, it wasn't good. I'm still playing Swift over DJ.
Yeah, I'd probably take his over on the receiving yards prop, too. It was 40.5. I was looking at it. That might be one to look at if you want to play a player prop in that game.
Oh, we're going to get to some player props in just a little bit. Jen has some very tasty options to pick from SI Sportsbook, and we have Michael Fabiano's boost of the week. But before we get to that, let's get to your start and sit. Let's go to quarterbacks, starting Matthew Stafford, starting Carson Wentz. You're benching Ryan Tannehill and Baker Mayfield. Tabs, tell us why.
Right. Well, Stafford, I mean, no Robert Woods. We don't know how much OBJ will play if he plays at all, but I still feel like, you know, based on the matchup, Stafford is in a bounce back spot against the 49ers. Carson Wentz has been very good, very underrated over the last month plus. He's got the Jaguars. It's a good matchup. And Tannehill, I mean, I talked about it earlier, right? You know, no Derrick Henry, no Julio Jones, not that that matters much. And the backfield is a committee situation. The Saints defense is pretty good. So I feel like this is a tough spot for Tannehill. And Baker is like, even when he puts up a good stat line in reality, like last week, he played really well. He didn't even score 17 points. It's the Patriots. Their defense is going to be tough. They've been tough on quarterbacks. It's a home game. So Baker is, and again, this is, you know, just traditional 1 quarterback leagues. These guys should not be in your lineup if you can help it.
Jen, any of those DFS options you like out of Stafford or Wentz? I guess Stafford's playing on Monday night. What do you think about Wentz today?
I love Wentz in DFS today. I think he's a fantastic option. I think Matt Ryan is another really good option today because I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in that Dallas game.
All right, let's move over to running backs. We talked about the Cardinals not having some of their top options. We're not expecting Kyler Murray to play. We're not expecting DeAndre Hopkins to play. But Fabs, I know you like James Conner a lot.
Yeah, well, how can you not? I mean, let's just hope the fantasy gods are in a good mood, right? Because everybody's starting James Conner, everybody this week, right? And over the last, first 9 weeks or so, people have been playing him as a flex, hoping that he gets into the end zone, which he's been doing. But everyone's playing him today. So let's hope that the fantasy guys are in a good mood. He puts up a good stat line against the Panthers. Melvin Gordon's also a really good play against the Eagles. They are really vulnerable to running backs. And we've seen that. Javonte Williams is a good flex this week as well. And then the running backs that I'm sitting, like you probably have to play them, right? But I'm not going to come out here and tell you to sit Corey Clement because that's not going to help you. By the way, Corey Clement is the number 3 running back in Dallas, if you didn't know. So Antonio Gibson has got a bad matchup against the Buccaneers. They've only given up more than 67 rushing yards to one running back. That's Khalil Herbert of the Chicago Bears. And Gibson's numbers over his last 3 games have not been good. He's lost touches to J.D. McKissick and Jarrett Patterson, which is a problem. But you probably have to play him. If you're in DFS, you avoid him. And then Elijah Mitchell, you probably got to play him. The volume's really nice. Okay, I get it. But I don't like the price in DFS. The Rams defense can be tough. Game script could be an issue here. So as much as I like Elijah Mitchell and I like the volume, the matchup is not good. I want to give you guys something to think about when I do these starts and sits. So I want to make sure I'm actually giving you guys some advice on players who you have a decision to make on.
Jen, is for DFS, is James Conner that free square this week that everyone's going to be using?
Yeah, he's going to be cheap chalk. The 3 cheap chalk options, which, by the way, you can still put a piece of chalk even in a cash game as long as you don't use all chalk, are going to be Mark Ingram, D'Ernest Johnson, and James Conner.
All right, let's move over to wide receivers. And if you're watching us on YouTube, now's the time to get those questions in because we're going to get to those in just a little bit. So you ask them now. We'll get to them in just a minute. Let's go through wide receivers from Michael Fabiano's start and sit list. He likes Michael Pittman Jr. and Mike Williams. Not feeling the love today for Cortland Sutton and DJ Moore.
It's a Mike party at wide receiver, at least at stardom, right? So Michael Pittman's been unbelievably good. A virtual must start at this point, really. I just put him in the column because the matchup is so good against Jacksonville. And then Mike Williams, for the last 5 games, let's be honest, he stinks, right? I mean, he's been terrible. Everyone's like, what happened to the Mike Williams from the first 3 or 4 weeks? This is the bounce back game, all right? The Vikings are awful against wide receivers. This is the elixir. If Mike Williams comes out and puts up a stink bomb against the Vikings, then you have to be worried for the rest of the season in terms of what he's going to do for you. But this is a really good matchup. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. At wide receiver, Cortland Sutton, his numbers have not been great over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Jerry Jeudy is back, so he is certainly garnering some targets there. That's splitting up the target pie. And, the Eagles' defense has been pretty good against wide receivers. Then DJ Moore, a player you probably have to play, right? But his numbers have not been great. Sam Darnold's been brutal. But, I mean, now you got Philip Walker. That's his government name, by the way. I know they call him PJ. It's Philip Walker. But he is a backup quarterback who's going to lose his job next week to Cam Newton. Right. How much faith can we have that he's going to be able to get the ball to DJ Moore? I think he's going to do a lot of the dump downs to Christian McCaffrey, and that's probably going to be a good portion of his fantasy production. So, again, you probably have to play DJ Moore. You don't have to like it. And the matchup certainly is not that great either. The Cardinals' defense is very aggressive.
Jen, even with Kyler Murray not expected to play today, knowing that it is PJ Walker, do you like the Cardinals at all -8?
Yeah, I still like the Cardinals. I mean, that's where I'm going. They're going to be fine. But really, if my name were Phil, I think I'd go by PJ as well. It's just not a very inspiring quarterback name.
Well, Philip Rivers has something to say to you.
Well, his name is Phil
Sims.
He goes by
Phil Sims.
Okay. It's still not a cool name.
All right, scratch off if Jen ever has a child. Scratch off Phil from the Phil from
Phil is off, right? Phil Mickelson, not happening.
Scratch off Jen ever having a child.
All right, let's go to tight ends. Let's start them. Dalton Schultz and Dan Arnold today. Dan Arnold, not a lot of people are talking about him, but boy, does he get a lot of targets.
I know. And so Schultz, here's the interesting thing. There's something I want to keep tabs on. Michael Gallup's back. So does that hurt Schultz in terms of the target share? So we'll find out. We'll go to school today. Dan Arnold, I don't know about you guys, but every time I hear Dan Arnold's name, for some reason, I think of the Wonder Years. right? Kevin Arnold, I don't know. Maybe it's because I grew up in the 80s. I have no idea. But I think he will be wonderful in terms of the targets. That's a bad dad joke, by the way, against what is a Colts defense that you can certainly score points on at the tight end position. And the targets have been very fruitful, as Bill mentioned. I'm sitting Tyler Higbee. The matchup's not great against the Niners. And then Jared Cook, he is in a tight end committee with Steven Anderson and Donald Parham. You do not want to start a tight end who's in a committee. Not a good idea. And even though the matchup's not bad against the Vikings, I'm going to fade Cook.
We have a question about a tight end. This one is from Steven, and it involves one of your stardoms. It involves Dalton Schultz, but his other option is George Kittle. Which way are you going here?
It's Kittle. Got to be Kittle.
We have a question from Paul. Jen, why don't you take this one? Michael Carter, Devonta Smith, or Brandon Ayuk in a PPR league?
Oh, gosh, that's hard. I'm actually going to go Michael Carter here because Mike White has been spreading the ball around and he has been targeting his running backs. Half-point PPR. I like it. It's also in a good spot, but I think actually Carter might be more dependable, giving more solid floor.
Now that we know it's snowing in Green Bay, did Odell Beckham Jr. make the right choice in going to sunny California?
Always.
The Rams made the right choice, apparently, with Robert. Did you hear Robert Woods actually practiced on the torn ACL and then was like, something's not right with my knee after practice. And then he got the MRI and boom, out. So I didn't like it initially, but now with the Woods out, it's not bad. And by the way, it's like in the 80s here. It's too hot for November. I don't like it.
Jen, do you think Van Jefferson still has a role?
Yeah, I definitely do, especially for this weekend, because he's the one that knows the playbook, right? I mean, OBJ's not going to come in and suddenly be Robert Woods. That just isn't going to happen. So Van Jefferson to the moon on Monday, along with Cooper Kupp. So I love those two guys. And I think Van Jefferson will still have a role. I mean, look, we're assuming that OBJ is going to be amazing, but maybe he's going to be more like AB, which is a kind of player that's going to have really good weeks and then weeks where he doesn't have good weeks. So I think we have to temper expectations because it's still OBJ. There's still a lot of other things going on than just talent level. There's connection. There's headspace. There's all those kind of things. And I want to kind of check out and see what's going on there.
All right, let's go over to the Princess of Props, Piacenti's player props for week 10. We'll get back to your questions just a little bit, but I want to help everyone make some money on SI Sportsbook with some of these bets because I'm feeling a lot of them. First up, Darren Waller, over 68.5 receiving yards. The juice is not that heavy on this one, Jen, only at -125.
Yeah.
And I know you like this prop a lot.
I do like it a lot, and I agree. That's not that much juice for this prop. I mean, the Chiefs have given up a league-leading 10.11 yards per target and a 78.7% catch rate. And we know who the #1 receiver is in Vegas. It's Waller. Last week without Ruggs, he was targeted 11 times. I think he definitely exceeds 68.5 receiving yards today versus the Chiefs. I mean, come on.
Fabs had Melvin Gordon as one of his stardoms today at running back. You like his counterpart in that backfield, Javonte Williams, the rookie for the Broncos, to go over 48.5 rushing yards.
You know, truth is, I actually like them both to go over this prop, and both of their prop is exactly the same, 48.5 rushing yards, -110. The Chargers have allowed a league-leading 130 yards per game. So there's enough room here for both of them to do this, and they're basically in a 50-50 split. But I picked Williams because he looked so good last week versus Dallas, as much as I hate to admit it. You know, he's efficient. He's more efficient than Melvin Gordon. So even if he has a few less touches, he might get a little bit more yards. So if I'm picking one, I'm picking Javonte Williams for today. I'm starting both of them in leagues where I have them.
Fabs, when you're ranking Gordon and Williams, how do you decide? It seems like they are so similar. Their production output is very much in line with each other. How do you decide which one to rank higher?
Gordon's been the more productive back, but it's been close. So like there's times often you'll see in my running back rankings, I'll have Gordon and then Williams, because I don't know who's going to be the more productive of the two backs because they get very similar workloads. But Gordon's been the better of the two backs from a fantasy perspective. So this week he gets the nod. But, you know, Jen's right. They're both good plays against the Eagles.
All right, let's get into some plus money player props. Jen, first start up with, actually, these players are playing in the same game. Mike Evans and Terry McLaurin, tell us why you're eyeing up these wide receivers.
Yes, I'm taking Mike Evans for over 5.5 catches. It's plus money, plus 125. Now, he's already done this in 4 of 8 games played. So he's done it half the time. Now, we know they weren't practicing with Godwin this week. Godwin will be back, but there's no Gronk and there's no Antonio Brown. Meanwhile, Washington football team has allowed the 3rd highest catch rate to opposing wide receivers and the 2nd most fantasy points per game to that position. So I like it. It's plus money. Mike Evans, he just needs 6 grabs today.
And then you also like Terry McLaurin to find the end zone.
Yeah, so the Bucs have allowed an average of 1 touchdown per game to opposing wide receivers. Well, there's really only one wide receiver for Washington football team, so it's Terry McLaurin. Plus 150 to find the end zone.
Fabs, any insight into what you're expecting out of Tom Brady today with Chris Godwin a little bit banged up? Is it all going to go to Mike Evans?
I mean, he's in my top 5 wide receivers for the week. No question about that. I have Brady ranked as my number 3 quarterback this week. So that's all you need to know. The Washington defense, coming off a bye week, I still feel like this is a vulnerable defense. And Tom Brady is, he's been the best quarterback in fantasy football this season. So I've got Tyler Johnson going in a couple of leagues because I'm a little bit desperate, need some help there. But I mean, we've seen it over the years. I mean, Tom Brady, outside of the seasons where he had, Randy Moss and, Wes Welker, he's always been able to produce good numbers despite the fact that he may not have elite wide receivers. And even with Godwin at less than 100%, that's still a pretty dynamic duo. So I feel like Brady's going to put up a very nice stat line against the football team.
You mentioned Tyler Johnson, which I like that call a lot for DFS. And I was thinking, and I put it in one lineup. What about James Washington in Pittsburgh? Because he and Rudolph played together in college. He is like dirt cheap for DFS lineups. So I feel like that could be a dart you could throw that might pay off today.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a rapport there, right?
Yeah.
And I'm actually starting James Washington in the Kings Classic this week against Bob Harris, who, by the way, his birthday was yesterday. I mean, we talk about Tom Brady, 44 years old, doing what he does. Bob Harris is 90 years old now, okay? He's still spitting out amazing fantasy football content. I love him. God bless you. He's on the air right now, so I'm sure he'll hear about this and get on me. But yeah, he looks good for 90, I tell you.
He does. Since he moved to Texas, he got even younger.
That's right.
Let's talk about Fabiano's boosted odds that you can only find on SI Sportsbook. And we basically just took whoever Fabs liked in his stardom situm, we created a player prop parlay for them, boosted the odds. The first one is Matthew Stafford and Carson Wentz to go over 2 touchdowns this week. It was plus 800. Now it's plus 1,000. Go to sisportsbook.com to get in on that parlay. Again, Stafford, Wentz, over 2 touchdowns, both of them plus 1,000. You put down $100, you win back 1,000. And then you also have Michael Pittman Jr. over 64.5 receiving yards. Mike Williams over 61.5 receiving yards. That was plus 250. Now it's plus 300. Put down 100, win back 3. That is only on sisportsbook.com. Go follow Michael Fabiano on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. And that's where you can find the link to those awesome player props. Jen does her Princess of Player Props on Thursday night. We haven't had a lot of success with those lately, but that Thursday night game, Dolphins and Ravens, that was ludicrous, okay? Myles Gaskin should have gotten to the end zone. They were running him. 3 times in a row, he got stuffed inside the 3-yard line. If I had any hair, I pulled it all out already. I was so frustrated with that damn Dolphins play calling inside the 5 against the Ravens.
I know Tua took his touchdown. That was totally Gaskins. It was totally Gaskins. I was yelling, but anyway, let's not relive the pain. That was a terrible game.
That was an awful game. The NFL has had some stinkers this year, man. I remember Seahawks, Saints. That was painful. I started Lamar Jackson and Jalen Waddle, and I was feeling pretty good about myself. Friday morning wasn't feeling very good.
All right, so again, got those boosted. I'm all in on that Stafford Carson Wentz one, over 2 touchdowns for both of them, plus 1,000. I think that's a no-brainer bet, but we'll see what happens when the Rams and the Niners get together on Monday Night Football. A couple more questions coming in from Twitter. We have Bave. It sounds like Dave, but with a B. Bave, Ramondre Stevenson. A lot of people are interested in playing him today because Damian Harris is out. Or Javonte Williams, who I know Fabs and Jen both like. Jen, which one are you going with there?
I'm going Javonte Williams because Ramondre Stevenson is facing Cleveland. It's actually a pretty tough run defense, not to mention the fact that he's been out all week. You never know what Belichick's going to do. He could use Bolden anyway. He could use J.J. Taylor just for funsies because that's the kind of thing he would do. So I'm going Javonte Williams.
I like how Jen said just for funsies. That should be a new segment. We should do a segment on here just for funsies. And it's players that, you know what, just have fun and start them. Yeah, no. We don't know if they're going to do anything, but just for funsies, get him into your lineup. I like that.
That's a good strategy. Good strategy. Fabs, your boy Michael Gallup is returning from injured reserve today, short-term IR. Captain wants to know, would you start him or Jamison Crowder in a full-point PPR format?
Man, see, like I would initially say Crowder, right? Because you know, the Jets are probably going to be playing from behind. Game script could be a positive for at least the Jets pass schedule. But Corey Davis is coming back, right? So, and you've got Elijah Moore, who's been playing pretty well as well. You know what? I'll still go Crowder, but that's one of those dart throws because Gallup's first game back. I mean, the matchup is pretty positive against Atlanta. A lot of mouths to feed for the Cowboys. I'll go with Jamison Crowder, but it's very close.
Jen, in a standard scoring league, are you going with Russell Gage or Alex Collins?
In a standard scoring, I will go with Alex Collins because I think he has the best shot of just punching it across the goal line. But in most leagues, I would go Russell Gage here because, again, the Dallas secondary, yeah, they've had a lot of takeaways, but they've also surrendered a whole lot of yards and a whole lot of points to opposing wide receivers. So Gage is a good play today.
Fabs, this question is from Michael Van Jefferson, Alex Collins, or Devonta Smith?
Alex Collins, I can't get in on the Seahawks backfield. It's too confusing. I don't even like Smith's matchup. I'm assuming it's PPR. I'm going to go with the wide receiver there.
All right, one RB and a flex. Cordaro Patterson, Keenan Allen, or Leonard Fournette. That's like a treasure trove of riches there.
Those are good. I'll go wow, those are really good. Let me just I'll go Cordero Patterson and Keenan Allen.
Cordero Patterson and Keenan Allen. All right, so tonight we have a Chiefs and Raiders game. Monday Night Football, we have, who's on Monday Night Football? Rams and 49ers. Both AFC West matchups, both NFC West, both AFC West teams, NFC West teams in primetime action tonight. I'm not expecting a whole lot from the Las Vegas Raiders. To me, guys, I just think it's KC's time. It's now or never for them. 4 of their next 5 games are against AFC West opponents. If we're going to see them in the playoffs, their winning streak, it has to start now. But, Jen, I know you have been doubting Patrick Mahomes, and rightfully so because he's played horrible, pretty bad all year. Is this a turnaround team? Is this a turnaround game for the Chiefs today?
I don't think it's a turnaround game for them, no. I think that the Vegas defense has actually been pretty good. Do I think they'll probably win it? Yeah, I do. But as far as like a turnaround game, like where they come out in dominant fashion, we're like, yeah, the Chiefs are back. No way. They have so many issues. They're not going to fix it overnight. And it's on so many levels. So yeah, I think Kansas City probably will cover this spread, but you know what? I'm not betting it because I don't feel safe on this one either way. I don't know how really to understand what's going on with Kansas City and Las Vegas. They have so many other things at play right now that aren't even just football related. So I'm kind of staying away from this game betting wise, but I think Kansas City will win this one, not definitively.
Chiefs are -2.5. Over on SI Sportsbook, the over-under is set at 52.5. Fabs, we know the injuries for the Los Angeles Rams with Robert Woods being out. I can't expect Odell Beckham Jr. to have a lot of playing time. We do think Van Jefferson will step into a bigger role there. -3.5 on the road against San Francisco. But again, you don't have any concerns about playing guys like Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm playing my top Rams in this game. You know, the Niners defense has not been all that great, folks. Just look at the numbers. So, you know, Darrell Henderson, he's had 2 of 3 games where his numbers haven't been all that great. I mean, I got him into my lineup. And honestly, I mean, you want shares of explosive offenses, especially when you've got 4 teams off and so many injuries. Like, that's why Van Jefferson's worth, a roll of the dice because he's in that offense. Maybe he sees more targets depending on whether or not if OBJ plays. And if he plays, how many opportunities does he get? And you want shares of those teams. So, and the Rams also, they got to be a little salty. I mean, they got their butts kicked by the Titans on their home field on national television. So unless they don't have any heart, and I'm guessing they probably have quite a bit of it, they'll come out and play a good game against the Niners.
I agree. And you guys, not for nothing, San Francisco's actually surrendered the 9th most half-point PPR. That's the same as FanDuel points to opposing quarterbacks. I guess it doesn't matter because it's quarterbacks, but I always do all my notes in FanDuel points. So Stafford is someone you should probably play. And it's Van Jefferson. He was playing 70% of the snaps before Robert Woods left. So Van Jefferson, smash.
All right, let's close out the show with a question from Twitter. Angie wants to know, should she start Pat Freiermuth, who's without Ben Roethlisberger, or Dan Arnold? Jen, what do you think?
I would start Pat Freiermuth still because he's just shown more skills, and I think that offense is a little bit better than Jacksonville, but they're both good starts. Dan Arnold's getting plenty of attention. He is basically operating as the #1 receiver for Jacksonville, but I'm still going Freiermuth.
Fabs, Angie also wants to know, in a standard league, Mike Williams, Javonte Williams, or Antonio Gibson?
In a standard league?
Yes.
#1, come on, folks. I mean, PPR is the new standard. I mean, really? I don't trust Antonio Gibson. I'm going to go with Mike Williams because I think he's getting into the end zone against the Vikings. Their defense is that bad against the pass. So I'm going to go Mike Williams here.
All right, final thoughts before we get into week 10. I can't believe we're in double digits already. This season is flown by.
Dude, Thanksgiving is in less than like 2 weeks. It's just unbelievable. I'm already really craving turkey, actually.
By. Jen, I know you had a great time at the wedding last night. Any kind of celebrations that people should take into their Sunday week 10 betting habits?
I mean, you should celebrate anytime you have a healthy lineup, which is rare. But, actually, we have a lot of great options. We have some pretty clear handcuffs available this week. Mark Ingram is there. That D'Ernest Johnson is there. So that's really great. So just take it in, have a great time. No crazy teams on bye this week. You're going to win. You're going to dominate. I believe in you. You got this.
Fabs, what do you got?
Play it safe with these wide receivers and quarterbacks and running backs who are questionable or game time decisions in the 4 o'clock window. You don't want to end up starting Colt McCoy because you made a bad decision. So if you've got Carson Wentz and Kyler, you're playing Carson Wentz. All right. I've got DeAndre Hopkins in a league. He's already on my bench. I'm playing James Washington. Do I like it? No, but I don't like getting 0 points. So you got to be smart about some of these decisions. I know we hate to bench Kyler. We hate to bench Nuke. But when it's trending on them being on the wrong side of questionable in a game time decision, you've got to play it safe and get guys in there who are going to produce. And a guy like Carson Wentz has been pretty good. So I feel pretty confident about starting him. I think Colt McCoy is probably going to be the quarterback for the Cardinals this afternoon. So Murray should not be in any lineups. Same thing with Nuke Hopkins.
Sorry about it, Bill. But you're like 300 points ahead of the field. You're like, not just in first, you're like in first with like a spyglass looking back at the rest of us. It's ridiculous.
My team has been doing very well. Want to wish everyone the best of luck for week 10. Fabs and I will be back on Twitter Spaces tonight, recapping all of today's action and previewing the Monday night and Sunday night football games. Jen's going to be on a plane. Have a safe flight. For everyone else out there, enjoy all your week 10 NFL bets and fantasy football matchups. Thanks for watching.